Come here. You have been enlisted. Hi, Omega. I just got home from visiting and doing a little running around, and Omega was happy to see me, which is typical. Omega. He doesn't. I'm not sure he realizes he's on camera, but what are you gonna do? He's in a pretty good mood today. I think he was a little lonely, but he's an intelligent cat, so he finds ways to occupy himself. I don't know what he's staring at. I really don't.
Me.
Well, he doesn't want to. Met a dog, a pit bull mix, I think. Good soul. Saw my first campfire, or attended my first campfire of the year. So that was pretty awesome. Visited with an old friend. Yeah, hopefully I can have a bit of a high school reunion. Um, it's been it's been over 15 years now. So I think it's time. We've had mini ones, which are wonderful. But be nice if and I know a lot of people are kind of around the country, but yeah, definitely something I would participate in and be happy to be involved in. Um, I ran into a number of classmates over the years, and even some teachers as well, just randomly around different towns, around Winstead and Torrington, but yeah, it's good to reconnect, especially the people I get along with. That usually helps. Hi, Omega. You want to participate?
Or she does.
I think he just wants attention.
Yes.
Hey.
What do you think participation is for him?
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, there's a special language with cats. Yeah, well, it's a bit more complicated or simpler, but it's you got to respond to them. They don't take your lead. Dogs do. Cats don't, and that's really deep rooted. It's not something that's a little thing where it's like, oh, it's just one little eccentricity. No, they refer to this kind of tea to that kind. No, it's hardwired. It's very fundamental. They're more solitary. That's kind of where it comes from. They're more autocratic, or more. Well, they're more interested in what they want to do, and their tribe, their colony. And if you're accepted amongst them, they will expect you to share with them, and they will try to share with you. They'll help groom you and all sorts of things. There's not a huge checklist for them. There's a bunch of things they might do. Whoa, whoa. Let go. No, let go. All right. And there's a number of things that you do for them, and they're happy if you feed them. I think if they want the food. um, but yeah, cats are a misunderstood species largely. People come around a lot, but it's like apes. They were misunderstood too, very very misunderstood. All right, get down, get down. I know when he gets feisty, he gets bitey, and I don't want that. No, 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 no. It's partly because he likes to be the center of attention, which I can relate to some degree. It's a human thing. People like to be like when they're having a conversation. They like to be the center of attention if they're telling a story, and a cat essentially is telling a story when they interact with you. It's the equivalent. So they get frustrated when you're doing something like talking to an audience, as I am, or eating even, and not giving them everything. No, yeah, they do get frustrated, and they take it out the way that they would on another cat, by physical aggression. And humans have the tendency to do so, the innate tendency, but we usually curtail that into something else. It's not that it's unnatural. It's just that we learn not to do that in pre-kindergarten and first grade and so on and so forth. We're socialized. I was homeschooled except for first grade and pre-kindergarten and kindergarten. But the principle is the same. I was also socialized. I mostly grew up with my brothers. We're all in one house, and that could be, and it was a very interesting learning opportunity. And there were co-ops that we went to, so we were definitely socialized with other people, and they were neighborhood kids. Excuse me. Our greatest teacher in many ways was the public library plus our own private library that we had at least hundreds of books in. I was introduced to science fiction fairly early on. There were some notions that, I wouldn't understand this or that, and perhaps I didn't, but it was because there's two areas. One is intellectual, the other is emotional. Or at least that's a good way of explaining it. So when I read a book, it's I may be doing research, I may be looking for something specific, or a book or an article or something like that. In that case, I read faster, and I'm looking for specific information, as I said. If it's for pleasure, though, it's an emotional thing. Or I'm reviewing something, or rereading something that I read a long time ago, probably a long time ago. I read thousands of books in my lifetime. But I find that reading them again, now a lot of them were more childish books because they were a comfort, they were for emotion, and they served their purpose. But some of them were pretty dense. Like I read a good part of Dune in, I think it must have been when I was in my early teens, and I remember it very vividly because I read it in 2020 for the first time, cover to cover, and I remember it very vividly that I stopped after a certain scene. It was when Jessica was discussing the ecological plans for Arrakis with Stilgar. That was when I stopped. And then I went on, obviously, in 2020. But all those years ago, I read up to that point. So the information in that book probably affected me on a subconscious level to some degree. I remember little tidbits. Didn't quite remember where it was from, but I remember little tidbits. Anyways, and I can say that for a lot of different books that I can name or that I can't name. I remember them a little bit, or I remember one scene or something, little fragments, or not so little fragments. So I think that's I think that's underestimated quite a lot. The importance of things that aren't fully remembered. Because we're biological, things aren't neat with us. That's the best way I can explain a lot of human mental functions. We're not neat. We don't fit into little boxes so neatly, I get seriously upset in a way, or I used to anyways. I certainly object to this very much of having a tick the box mentality. It's disastrous, absolutely disastrous. I have work tomorrow at Market 32, so I'm looking forward to it. Um, I want to advance in my job, in my career. So um, I'll be looking for opportunities for advancement. It could be just working in another department in addition to utilities or something surprising. Who knows? But I want more opportunities. My appetite for life seems to increase as time goes by, not decrease. Unfortunately, some people it's the opposite. Um, and I do feel sorry for them, but there's I think some people are weighed down by obligation. Now, obligation is something, but how one approaches it is um, it has a very, very strong effect on one's long-term plans and the success of those plans. Um, anyways, um, it's basically a question of on whose terms am I doing this, any given thing. And some people, I believe, self-sabotage, and so they blame their family or they blame their job or something for causing them to have a negative outcome. But it's really because their ambition um, or their aspirations are not in alignment with the reality, and so they give into despair and self-sabotage until they get into a familiar pattern. It's basic psychology, but people live it out sometimes, and that has really unfortunate outcomes. Um, I I have witnessed, I think, some of that before in my life, and well, it's certainly something that one must be careful about. As for myself, my obligations are always personal. People cannot come in and impose something on me and say and impel me to take it seriously. It hasn't been done ever, not once in my life. I've been motivated to do stuff because people wanted me to for various reasons, but it didn't impel me. It compelled. It compelled is external. Impelled is internal drive. So that's the difference. Um, yeah, but I'm not one to begrudge people um, the fact that they need help. I actually go out of my way to help people in general, but it's on my terms, not on anyone else's. Just a moment. Move. Omega decided to knock something off the counter and was going to eat it. Open it up and eat it. The pastries. Too much chocolate for him. Yes. So this all comes down to self-possession. That's the now people say self-actualization is the height of the hierarchy of needs. Well, sort of. Yes, I mean it is. But the way I look at it is, it's the more you know yourself, the more you can combine with self-possession, and that's will. That combination is will. You know who you are, you know exactly what you want in a given situation or a given scenario or a given chain of events. Anyways, well, there's a lot of ways of looking at this, but what um, what people want to do, what people desire in life, it can be fulfilled. Um, Usually, there's multiple ways to fulfill to achieve self-possession. Um, I wouldn't argue necessarily that one way or another is better, but um, I mean, it's find the way that works best for you. But usually, it's something to do with collaboration. There's usually quite a lot of that because we are social animals. Even if we don't like someone, we can work with someone, or not. But we find people who we can work with. And then we don't always work with people we like. That's the other thing that screws people up big time. So with collaboration, one must be very careful. And yeah, that's basically how one achieves success in life. Learn how to collaborate, learn one's core competencies, learn who one is, and then distinguish between competencies and what we like. Sometimes it's the same thing, but um, and that's work. And then one takes on responsibility, and that makes them a community creature. And then, if society is to become successful or remain successful, rather, one has to understand that they're not alone, that there's other communities, and they have to in some ways interlock, and that is what culture is. Now there are cultures that isolate themselves. They don't last very long, or they're in favorable conditions, but they become very ingrown and weird, essentially. And it's not necessarily favorable when they open back up, or if they do. We know that there's certain tribes in the Amazon who don't seem to have interacted with outsiders, and they're very, very hostile. At least some of them are, and certain islands. They're hostile because, well, I imagine it's because they haven't been exposed to other people. They haven't developed empathy for. They haven't learned to recognize that humans are diverse. They don't look like they're tribes people. They don't. They may not understand the concept of tribe. Um, anyways, um, so I'll probably schedule another live session probably for next Saturday. Um, so you all have a little more warning, but you can go back and look at this if you'd like. Um, and I hope to see you all. Whoever's interested in watching these, I can see you later. And also, I stream on Fortnite sometimes. So if that's something you want to look at, I do that too. Maybe Omega will be more social next week. And he can participate a little more. And I wish you all a blessed Mother's Day.